After eating, we sat down and he began to teach me how to read and write. I think I had more success on that than the listening task he gave me earlier. Around dusk, he put the books away and made us some tea for a refreshment. "Make yourself comfortable. I'm going to tell you something more about the world around us," he said, and sat on his big chair. Then he began to talk about the history and geography of the world again. I hadn't realized there were still so many things we hadn't talked about on our way to the cottage. When I said it to him, he smiled and replied, "Kalia, my entire lifespan from this point onward wouldn't be enough time to tell you everything I know. If you'd like, we can keep these story sessions every evening." "Really? Sounds good." "Oh, well, you should get some sleep now. There will be more studying for you to do tomorrow." After saying good night, I went back to my spot outside and decided to take a dive in the pond again before going to sleep. The same daily schedule became a routine for both of us. Every day when I woke up, I'd have some breakfast and then would spend early day in the forest, trying to listen, as he had said. I'd come back for lunch, and then he'd teach me more about reading and writing. Every evening we settled down and he told me yet another story about the world, except that they were all true. Every day I'd take a swim in the pond before going to sleep. This continued for about a week. The next morning he had some news for me. "As you can imagine, there are some things that even I can't produce for myself here in the woods. That's why I need to go to town every now and then. It's a fairly sizable place not far from here. Astronaut, it's called. I think I've already told you a few things about it." I had stopped eating my breakfast and stared at him with surprise on my face. "The trip usually takes the whole day. I won't be back until dusk, and..." At this point, he saw the look on my face and stopped talking. Then he came closer and said in a more friendly tone, "Don't worry, child. I think you are capable of handling yourself for one day. You can eat whatever you can find in the kitchen and the garden. Feel free to do what you like. Just don't stray too far from the cottage." Thinking back to it, I wonder why I never asked if I could go with him. Maybe I just didn't feel like meeting anyone at that point. After all, the peacefulness of the surrounding woods had been what had taken my thoughts off the nightmares of my past in the first place. I guess I kinda felt like I couldn't go there and face it. Just yet. About half an hour later, he left. For a while, I wondered what I should do. I considered looking through some lockers and doors whose contents I had yet to see, but the great respect I had begun to hold for the old Druid stopped me from doing so. I could have spent the day swimming in the pond, but there were those days when I simply wasn't in the mood for that, and this was one of them. After a while of thinking, I decided to go to that glade in the woods and try that listening exercise again. After all, I knew the way and all, or so I thought. When I was about halfway there, I took a little detour from the path. Just going around a few trees. I thought it would be a shortcut." Suddenly, the ground under my feet couldn't carry my weight anymore, and I somehow fell through. When I shook my head and focused my view again, I found myself in the bottom of a hole in the ground, about 3 times as deep as I was tall. Muddy chunks of the ground that had crumbled beneath me were scattered about, and my right leg was stuck under one of them. The edges of the pit were completely vertical. There was no way I could climb up, even if I did manage to free my leg. Somewhat surprisingly, I hadn't broken any of my bones or anything. I was just stuck in the bottom of a pit. Of course, I panicked at first, struggling to get my leg from under the muddy pile. It didn't make me feel any better when I realized after a few minutes that my efforts were in vain. I was probably just imagining, but the edges of the hole seemed to be closing in. I thought the whole thing might cave in on me any second. Being stuck in a small space made me fear. I felt a desperate need to get out of the hole. I found that calming myself down was extremely hard. I think it took me at least an hour to stop struggling and panicking. I told myself the old Druid would eventually come looking for me. It wouldn't take him too long to figure out where I was, but I knew it would take him hours to return and realize I'm missing. And even then, it could take him days to actually find me. The fear began to take control again, but this time I fought it. I closed my eyes and my mind from everything around me. I wanted to just sit there, senseless, until I'd be found. I don't know how many hours I stayed that way. Eventually, I had brought myself to forget about the world around me. I was wandering in the middle of an empty darkness created by myself. Eventually, my child's curiosity grew too large. I started to explore the void that I had trapped myself in. Carefully, I poked holes in it, trying to see what was outside, taking careful peeks back into the real world, but trying not to expose myself to the full extent of it. That's when I heard it. It was like a distant song coming from somewhere. I had to hear more. I began to lower my barriers and hear the world around me. Slowly, the sound became louder and louder, and more details of it were revealed to me. It was coming from multiple sources all around me. Those that were close I could hear loud and clear, and those that were further away seemed to be just small pieces of a massive choir in the background. The whole thing began to visualize in my mind. A map based on the type and volume of the sounds I heard. It was amazing. I could literally feel and hear every living thing around me. For who knows how long I sat there listening. Then I picked up something that was closing in. I couldn't quite tell what it was, but I did know that it was coming straight toward me. And the power it radiated was enormous, enough to overshadow everything else. Then a voice, a real physical one, pierced through my thoughts. "Kalia, there you are. I was starting to get worried. I opened my eyes and found that the old druid was standing at the edge of the pit, looking at me with concern on his face. I'm all right. Just help me out of here. Okay, hold on a minute, he yelled back and walked somewhere. Even though I had had my eyes open for mere minutes, the walls around me already started to press onto me again. I was very relieved when he came back again. He had a staff which he reached down toward me. Here, grab this. I'm stuck. I can't get out, I said, and patted the pile of mud that my leg was buried under. He gave it a few swift pokes with his staff and it let me loose. Then he helped me up. The second I stood on solid ground again, I hugged him while calming my mind and catching my breath after the panic. Damn holes, always hidden where you'd least expect them to be. Are you alright? You look like you'd seen a ghost. I took a few more moments before replying. I'm fine, just a little scared. Once again, he seemed to understand me without much further talk. When we turned to walk back towards the cottage, I spoke again. I heard it. The nature, like you said. I heard it. He stopped and looked at me. I'll never forget the surprised look on his face. When I was down in that pit, I closed my eyes and calmed my mind, just like you said, and it worked. A wide smile slowly spread on his face. Well done, Kalia, well done. Needless to say, we spent the rest of the trip and our evening together discussing the details of it. Even though we were both happy for my accomplishment, I knew that it hadn't come without a price. Ever since that day, I've more or less feared small spaces.